listening to Reignite, a podcast about the importance of a movie night with friends. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Now that the Nexus is back on our side, we can take a minute to breathe. Carrie is out of jail, movie night is back on, and our paramour would like to take us on a date.
Yeah, I'll use the term date very loosely.
Mine was definitely a date.
No, mine not so much. Mine was akin to a softcore porn, but we'll get into that.
Big yikes.
We get to take a brief respite, and while we'll get into more details at the end, movie night does feel akin to the whole Citadel DLC in sense of tone, right? Like it's your break before the final mission. Another reason why I think the third game feels more complete post DLC than pre DLC, because that experience just kind of pulls together the whole tail end of that game, that camaraderie. And I think this does the same for this team who's already grown over all this time, but now you get to see them all act in their comfortable personalities within a group, you know?
Yeah. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about Jal.
Yeah, so this is after the Meridian mission, and we get to talk to Jal about finding out that his entire species was essentially created by another species, and that all of the remnant tech has led us to find that information. And the conversation starts very dramatically. He's like, "Have you come to see if I am broken?" Which we anticipated. I mean, he's our big marshmallow, and we knew he was going to take this hard, but I don't know about the tenor of your conversation, but mine, because of the way I play my rider, ended up being more optimistic, and Jal ended up being more optimistic as well.
Yeah.
So we talked to him, and, you know, you can either kind of lean into the tragedy of it or lean into the fact that no matter what, that you kind of still own your own destiny. And like, that's kind of Jal's personality, and kind of has always been Jal's personality, is like being the master of his own destiny.
Yeah, I love that Jal is not broken by this information. He is completely empowered. It gives him a sense of destiny, of belonging in the universe. His people were created with purpose, and he chooses to believe that their purpose matters. It would have been so easy for this to be another exaltation revelation, but to quote one of my favorite podcasts, he chooses joy.
Yeah, he very much is the balance to Ryder in a lot of ways, especially depending on how you play your Ryder, because he genuinely has a mostly optimistic outlook. A thing that stays pretty consistent through this, whereas our former Marshmallow, current Marshmallow, but from a previous series, Caden does in the third game start to kind of get broken. Like you when you pursue a relationship with him, you can like still have those tender and sweet moments, but he is definitely pressured and broken by what's happening on Earth and what's going on with the Reapers. And Jal still continues to seem to keep that optimistic outlook no matter what, which is, you know, heartening.
Honestly, I feel that's where Andromeda and the original trilogy kind of diverge from each other. Original trilogy really leans into all of these tragedies, and everything just gets worse and worse and worse. Even if you win, things are still going down. Whereas with Andromeda, this is a game of optimism and joy and exploration and hope. Whereas in the original trilogy, that hope is being stripped away very carefully. So I think Caden and Jal would be best friends.
I mean, I agree. And yeah, I agree with that too. I think it goes back to our Star Trek, Star Wars comparison, right? Star Trek, even at its bleakest, is all about the good of humanity and optimism and like trying to use diplomacy. And this game really leans into that kind of optimistic exploration. And Jal is a perfect example of what optimism and faith can do in this situation.
I love Jal.
He's great. He's great.
He's a good man.
Yes.
Another conversation that we get, if you listen to our Romance Roundtable, you would be familiar with Ken Shepard's stance on Gil's storyline. Whether or not you romance Gil, you still get to be part of the decision. Turns out Jill wants to have a baby and asks Gil to be the father.
Yeah. And like, I hadn't experienced this before. I went based on what Ken's reaction were and what I've read up on, because I spoiled myself a little for the romances just because I wanted to kind of be in the know and be a part of those conversations to the best of my ability. And I can absolutely see Ken's position of how it feels a little empty if you don't romance him, right? Because it just feels like you're being asked to be a part of a decision that's not Like it just feels weird, like in those moments where Shepard is often like, "Hey, what's your thought?" And Shepard's like, "I don't know. I don't live here. I don't go here. What do you want from me?" This feels very much like one of those decisions where, like, clearly you and Gil have gotten close, but if there's no relationship there, it feels odd. You're not besties, right? Like he cares about you and you've grown close. It's all the time dilation too, right? Like we don't know how long they've been together as a crew. It's we guesstimate, but like you can't really. It's hard to tell really how long.
I just want to highlight that Ken had this stance that no matter what, this storyline felt empty because it's not about Gil's agency at all. It's about Jill's agency.
True. Yes, that's right.
And Jill's desire for a baby. Right. There is this element, if you romance him, that you can also, like, be the father. Like, right. The two of you can do some science fiction nonsense to both be the father. I don't know. That being said, as Gil's friend,
yeah,
what did you do?
I recommended that he have the baby.
You did?
Yeah, so there's something about Gil that I've learned. Well, on a meta level, I understand the conversation, and I know that Ken. You're right. Ken did say it felt empty either way, but Ken did say that he would be heartened to see what that in the sequel in Mass Effect 5, if they show how they were fathers and how they raised this young baby together and like all of that stuff. Like that could be interesting and heartening and all of that. For me, Gil has been a parent the entire time you've been on the ship. Think about how he treats Callow, how he's treated the ship, how he's wanted to like guide conversations, be supportive, be fun, be funny. Like I saw the parent in him. And while I feel like the choice is still like taking away Gil's agency a little bit, I also felt like, I don't know, I could see him being a parent and a good one. And I wanted to encourage that. And this is his friend who is asking for help and supposedly a very close friend, right? That's the perspective we're given, is that him and Jill are very close. And like, I think it's complicated no matter which way you go, but I don't know. I saw him as a good dad and I wanted to encourage a good dad to be a good dad, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I also encouraged him to go for it, but my reasons were a little bit different from yours. He has been talking about being a dad.
Yeah.
He has mentioned it. He's mentioned wanting to be different from his own father. He's mentioned that he doesn't really know what his place is in the universe. If, like, he can't contribute to expanding our colonies. And because this has already been on his mind, he's already thinking about it. He already wants to do it. He just needs somebody to give him permission.
Right.
So that's why I encouraged him.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting dilemma, and, like, for sure it does feel like you're going along with Jill's plan, like if you say yes, it's kind of like, oh, this is for Jill and Gil's just along for the ride. But I think if you dig deeper, there's more to it than that. But alternatively, I can see why you might persuade him not to do it as well. Like I think both decisions make sense in the context that we're presented, regardless of how weak we feel it is narratively. Mm-hmm. Based on the information you're given, I could see why you would make either choice.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of missions.
Sure.
So we know that there is a signal out in the desert somewhere about someone who wants to betray the Archon. I almost forgot his name. Who wants to betray the Archon. And after some hunting, we do find out that it is the Primus. Now, the Primus has a deal for us.
He does have a deal for us, and it's kind of a bum deal, but it's, you can help me kill the Archon and then I'll kill you, or I'll kill the Archon myself. Like, he wants to get the Archon and he wants your help, but he makes it very clear very early that if you help him, he will still turn on you when the time is right and still want to take over the world, essentially the galaxy, which stinks.
Yeah. Basically, it is, I'll give you the access codes to shut my ship down, wink, wink. And, oh no, I cannot help destroy the initiative. Whatever shall we do? So that way Ryder can have an easier time going after the Archon. And as Matt said, the Primus will just come back. What'd you do?
I told him no deal.
No deal.
It's just, it's one trading one bad guy for the other, right? It's all bad. And
you waiting for the banker to call back with a better deal?
Right, or just I'm going to kill them both. Like, we're going to stop the Ket by any means necessary. And I don't care if it's the Primus, the Archon Primus, the Primus Archon. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go after all of them. Like, it just, the deal to say with a straight face that, yeah, I will not help the Archon so you can win this time. And then I'm still going to come after you. It's like, well, then why bother? I will just stop it altogether. I don't need your help. I do it myself.
I also did not take the deal because I'll have to kill them someday anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the point? But that being said, I have played in the past where I have taken the deal.
Okay.
So I will let you know how that compares.
Good to know.
So we'll figure that out. Let's see what else we got here. Dr. Salin.
Yes.
Okay, so I hated this mission. I hated it so much. It was so boring. It dragged you all over creation and didn't add anything to the story. Dr. Salin is a former STG agent. He believes that the Ark was betrayed by Dr. Aiden and some other key officials in the Salarian, governing body for the Ark. But we keep getting told, oh, Salin's a conspiracy theorist. Salin doesn't know what he's talking about. He's actually really old and... like, you spend so many years in SDG, you start seeing ghosts everywhere you go. And, like, yeah, sure, that's a viable explanation. But, I don't know, it tried to be very cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
And it just didn't succeed, in my opinion.
No, it's not a very interesting mission. And, like, this highlights a problem that we've been talking about the entire time, that there is a lot of, like in Inquisition as well, hey, go here, do the thing, which can be fun if you're really enjoying the mechanics, but can also be tedious if it drags on too long.
Yeah. So that was Traitor and Trespass. But then we get to do something that should be fun, playing board games with our favorite Krogans.
Yeah. Drax sends us an email saying that he wants us to meet him at the Vortex, which is the bar on the Nexus. And when we do, he talks about how we're going to play, fire-breathing...
Thresher Maws.
Fire-breathing Thresher Maws, which is a Krogan kids game with Kesh and Kesh's partner. And you do get the opportunity to go, you actually like him. You don't hate him as much as you think. And he's like, no.
Yes.
He's like, no, I just want to crush him.
He approves of Vorn. It's so
But so we have this conversation in the bar where he lays out he's like, oh, it's a kid's game. It's fine. We'll lay out the rules and we're all going to play. And he's like, casually mentions mini flamethrowers. And he's like, just don't point them at the drinks or the bartender will be mad. I'm like, okay. And then it cuts away and we're standing at the bar and we don't actually play the board game. We just talk about playing it.
We deserve a mini game.
Absolutely.
Like in Citadel DLC, you gave us the claw machine, you gave us the Rock'em Sock'em robots, you gave us Galaga. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't give us some, like, dinky little mini game to emulate the fire-breathing Thresher Maws?
Yeah, it's a ripoff.
So disappointing.
It's a bummer. But I like the idea of it, though, that you continue to pal around with your favorite Krogan grandpa. But it also feels a little weird just because we haven't really spoken to Kesh since she turned us down and then the Nexus came crawling back. And so it does feel like a little like Drac is trying to repair the damage. He's trying to play, like, not matchmaker, but like, just kind of coordinate and everyone be happy, stop being mad kind of a thing, which shows to his kinder heart as well, even more.
Because he's a grandpa. He doesn't like his grandchildren fighting.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have on our list? Date night.
So,
you want to talk about yours first?
Sure. So you get an opportunity before movie night to have a date with your partner. And with Cora, it's very by the book almost, it feels. What I mean is, like, Cora sends you an email saying, hey, can I discuss something with you? It's very important. And when you go to talk to her, she's like, so I think one of your lights are broken in your quarters and we should go check it out. And you can play along, but it really does feel like the intro to a bad softcore porn. Like, oh, come here for repairs kind of a thing. And it's meant to be kind of awkward and dorky. And like ultimately it's very cool to see Cora kind of come out of her shell, and you get to have like some nice conversations with her. But like the whole, like it's pretty much for them to sleep together, and the whole scene is kind of shot and angled, also feeling very kind of, and I don't know if this is me being prudish or what, but it just feels very softcore porn. And I don't know if that's also because it's two human characters, right? And so we know the anatomy, we can see some of the anatomy, like, but the whole tenor of it felt very, not very romantic, which is fine.
Very male gazy.
Yes, for sure. And that said, like when you're laying in bed with Cora, you do have a nice conversation. You talk about how this isn't going to be easy, but it's worth it. And like you get to see Cora smile and be happy in a way that you just have not seen the entire game, right? Like there is a weight lifted off of her to get to feel comfortable and vulnerable with you. But the whole moment is very much about finding an excuse to sleep together, sleeping together, and then Sam interrupting the next morning to wake you up. Although there is a funny moment when you're about to do the deed, as it were, where you ask Sam to turn off the archives for a little while, kind of go to sleep. And then he wakes you up the next morning saying the day shift's starting, and you just kind of groan and thanks, Sam. It just felt very clinical, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are looking for that, but that's not what I was looking for. I'm kind of a hopeless romantic.
You want to be wined and dined.
A little bit, but also Cora does talk about how maybe someday they can go off on their own and like grow, start a garden and like explore together, and like eventually when all this is over. So like there's the pie in the sky white picket fence dream that Cora has, which is very sweet, but it just did feel very kind of male gazing, an excuse to show a boob or two, which is like, okay, sure. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on this scene, because I know you've seen
don't.
it.
I've never romanced her.
Oh, okay.
I have like watched the video like once, and my hard opinions about romances in general in Andromeda is that some characters they go really hard for, like Cora, Jal is an example, Peebee, Gil, like they all get like these really spicy scenes.
Yeah.
To varying degrees, but like Liam gets a fade to black, Vetra gets a fade to black.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but why?
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah. And it's like, sure, of course, there's a level of people want to see the sexy stuff, which sure, of course, but that's narratively, that's not what I'm looking for. You should
get a choice.
Yeah. And like there is a moment, I think, at the beginning of Cora's scene where you could say, instead of sleeping together, let's cuddle essentially. But I did choose that one because I was just curious, like I wanted to see how this thing played out when you were all in. And I was afraid that would be a let's not have a relationship option. I wasn't sure. So yeah, like I said, I'm a little disappointed with how it played out, because I think Cora has a lot more romance in her than the game let her have, because they wanted to have a spicy scene that guys can enjoy, and it's just fine,
Should have picked the snuggling option.
I guess so. Why don't you tell me about Jal's date night?
Oh my god, it was so good. First, you probably didn't get this conversation yet, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway. Jal got a raise and a promotion.
Oh, I did get this one too.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So Jal's telling you all about how he's getting his own command, how important he is, how, like, he has to go to Vold or whatever. And then you're like, oh, okay. I get it. And then he turns around and he's like, why are you sad? I'm not going.
Yeah.
Like, why are you upset? I'm staying right here. Which, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah, and it's like you could be like, but this is everything you've ever wanted. Why wouldn't you take it? And he pretty much tells you that he loves this freedom that he has here, and he's a part of something bigger.
I found my better self.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, he's acknowledging that the person he was would have wanted this, but the person he's become is beyond this, is that he wants more. He wants something else.
I love him.
He's great. He's a great character.
And then he asked me to meet him on Aya, and this scene is a little spicy, but it's also beautifully intimate and just so gorgeously done. He surprises you with this beautiful waterfall that he reserved just for you specifically. And you have this like tender moment where you kiss, and he tells you that this is his favorite place in the universe. And then he invites you into the water with him, and he gets undressed so fast. With all the armor you wear, that doesn't seem possible.
Nope. There must be one latch that just drops it all off.
And then, like, you have this really beautiful scene with the two of you together in the water, and you're having fun, you're being playful, you're like, you kiss and you throw each other into the water and you're splashing around, and he leads you behind the waterfall for some privacy. And it is a spicy moment. A very spicy moment that I will not detail here. But it was very much through the female gaze.
Mm-hmm.
And very much about making Ryder feel good. And, you know, that's a beautiful thing. You don't often see a feminine person's pleasure being prioritized in mainstream media.
Right.
There was a movie a while back, I think Ryan Reynolds was in it, where there was a scene of him going down on his wife, and they tried to get them to cut the scene, and he refused to cut the scene because being able to put that pleasure before his own or before a man's was really important for the story that he was trying to tell.
I think it was Deadpool, I think it was like after him and his, like, they were showing them celebrating all year round in the second movie and like all the different holidays. I think it was part of that.
I do not know.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a longer ago than that. But
Than Deadpool 2? Okay, maybe.
I don't know. If you know the movie that I'm talking about, please write in, because I'm terrible at this stuff and I've never seen any of the Deadpools. I just remember seeing an article where he was talking about it. So that's that. But yeah, it was just such a beautiful scene. Whereas your scene with Cora felt very like clinical, this felt very organic.
Yeah. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just looking at it from a different perspective. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts. I mean, I know that Josh Kostler is a big fan of Cora, but we didn't really talk about this scene with him. We talked about the scene before it with the rose garden and all that. And so it could be that he's not hugely fond of it either, except for the obvious stuff. I bet
Josh chose snuggling.
I mean, maybe that too. He seems like a snuggler. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm not disappointed that I pursued Cora because she did feel the right match for me in the moment, but I'm a little disappointed with how BioWare handled that scene. I just felt like there could have been more to it than the sex scene itself. The sex scene seems to be the focus of it instead of like doing something sweetly or whatever. And like also Cora's a giant weeb, so she would handle this kind of awkwardly. But it just didn't feel right for what I was envisioning anyway.
There are other kinds of intimacy.
Yes.
And they consistently place an importance on the wrong kind.
Yeah. It's often about the sex scene and not about the before, the after, and like the foreplay, as it were.
Yeah. And the aftercare.
Yeah. I mean, all of that. Yeah.
Last thing for us to talk about is the thing that I've been stoked for this entire season, movie night. Movie
night's pretty great. I had done a lot of this mission up until before now. The only stuff I had left to do was to get the hangover cure for Lex that Lexi recommended, and then of course get Liam finally going, oh, there's a specific movie you need to get. You find out later he didn't think you'd actually be able to get, but you did, which is great. And then once you get your hands on the film, you bring it back to the ship and you can have movie night. And
can I just say, before movie night starts, I walked in on Cora trying to explain snakes and ladders.
Really?
Yeah, she was trying to explain it to like PB and I think Lexi, and they were like, "What a horrible game!" Because they thought the snakes were real. I'm sorry, it's just it goes with the vibe of the movie night because they're all such dummies.
They are very much so, yeah.
Oh, they kill me.
That's like there was a scene I walked in on Liam trying to convince Drac to headbutt him just once. And Lexi's like, I do not condone this. You do not have my approval.
Dummies. Anyway, the movie starts.
And it's great. Everyone's commenting, you're making jokes. I was bummed that you didn't get to make the choice here. Like, it just happens. But like during one of the slower parts, Liam suggests that we could watch this slow bit or we could just jump ahead to the explosions.
I would not consent to skipping ahead.
Same. But they don't and it sounds like they're setting it up for Ryder to make a choice, but they don't. Ryder just goes, let's skip. Ryder just goes, let's skip to the good part.
No, we watch the whole movie.
That's the point of bad movie night.
Oh my god. And I love their commentary throughout. The ship explosion would be silent. Torpedo the cruiser!
Yeah, Callow complaining that explosions don't make noise in space, and then Cora saying that it would have just been much faster if they blew it up with a torpedo. Why would they do all this other stuff? So
and
good.
Gil, like, send in an engineer. But then you have your engineer trap. And oh my god, they're all trying to be tactical with this bad movie.
Uh-huh.
And then the quotes from the movie.
Yeah.
The hero's best friend is named Titanus.
Yeah.
Which is spelled like tetanus.
Uh-huh.
Titanus, no!
Yeah. At this point, you're shown cuddling with your romantic partner of choice.
Wait. You can't skip over the best part, which is where they challenge Ryder to do a better job with the death scene.
Yeah, I thought that they show the cuddling before that. Maybe not. Maybe that's after.
Comes after.
It does come after. Yeah. So the scene you mentioned where Titanus is dying, they're making fun of it, and you go like, "Oh, come on, it's not that bad." And they're like, "Oh, well, Ryder, can you do better?" And then you just get up, and Callow offers to be your dying partner.
I'll play dead for you.
and it's so good. And like, no matter which option you choose, it's just like, I chose the more sincere, like, you'll be avenged. I will go after them, Callow. I will not let your death be in vain, kind of a thing.
I love these quotes. He was so young and Salarian. Ryder, I can't feel my gallbladder. Do you even have a gallbladder? Oh no.
Yeah. You can choose to be goofy or sincere, and either way you get applause at the afterwards, which is great. And then the movie progresses and they cut to you cuddling your romantic partner, which is lovely, very sweet.
Yay. Snuggling with your boo. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
We have a couple of other quotes that I just want to share.
Please.
I swear to love you 1,000 times, 1,000 stars. No sea of stars can ever separate us again.
Aw, pretty.
I know it's supposed to be a bad movie, but I still really like that shit.
That's a good line. I mean, I like cheesy stuff, so that's fine. I'm here for it.
And that was movie night. It's such a needed break before you go and do everything else.
Yeah, I took a screenshot. I don't think I posted it yet. Maybe I'll post it when this episode goes live. But when the movie first starts and you can kind of see everybody sitting on and around the couch, I took a photo of that. It's just such a great moment, like the couch photo moment in Citadel. I like these kind of like everyone comes together to be in one room moments. I think that not enough RPGs have them. They definitely do it more now, but like one of my favorite things about Chrono Trigger, an RPG that I mentioned too much, is that there are a lot of moments where even though you're only bringing a handful of people with you from place to place, that you can gather in a place where everyone is and like talk to them and interact with them. And I love that stuff in RPGs, because it's very easy to be segmented. If you only bring the same two people with you constantly, like say Garrus and Tali, you won't get the thoughts of the other crewmates. And these moments provide.
I refuse to be attacked in this manner on this our show that we birthed together, that we have raised from infancy.
Uh-huh. But I do like when games give you the opportunity to see everyone kind of cut loose and be themselves and show like consistency in their personality, right? Like no one who outbursts during the movie is out of character. They're all being goofy in the way that we would expect, and none of it feels like funny for funny's sake, right? It's all still showing character growth and the evolution of this crew in a way that I think is really fun.
And that's really it for us today.
Yeah, we wanted to wrap up some side quests and of course feature the date night and the movie night. But we are in the home stretch, my friends.
Our next episode, we will be going after Meridian again.
Yep. This time we swear it's really the Meridian.
Meridian, take 2. This time, it's personal.
Oh, that's the title of that episode now. It has to be.
If you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Facebook.com/reignitepod. Or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter, for however long it exists, at FrankieBWrites, and Matt at DJ_Stormageddon. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in the conversation. That link is on the website. That link, I think, is pinned on our Facebook, or at least on the CPOV Facebook. There are a lot of ways to find it. You could DM me or Frankie and ask for the invite. We love to grow this community and have you all join us. We're having some great conversations. And we're in the home stretch of me reading the backlog of the Andromeda Matt Stay Out channel, which maybe we'll do a dramatic reading of in the epilogue episode. We'll see. I'll see if we can find some good stuff in there, and I'll react to it live.
As for personal plugs, my show, Certain Point of View, is coming back for December and January.
Yay!
It's changing format a little bit, but it's still going to be me and my darling husband talking about our favorite Christmas movies of the year, or, in this case, last year. Don't at us. We got COVID in December. We have some catching up to do.
Yes.
But it's still a fun show. If you like Christmas movies, if you like holiday movies, check us out at Certain Point of View on certainpov.com.
Yes, definitely. I was a guest the first year they did it, and I'm hoping to come back this year. We'll see. I have to look at the movies, see if there are any particularly Jewish ones, because sometimes there are.
There isn't, but I think I know which movie you would want to come on for.
Oh, interesting. We'll have to talk about that. So stay tuned. For me, I'm still at djstormageddon.com. That's where you can find almost everything that I do. The most place that I'm active is Twitter, and by the time you're hearing this, it may not even be around anymore. Who the hell knows? And I'm not quite ready to commit to Mastodon yet. But I do have plans to be at conventions in the nearest future. I don't remember when this is going to air, so I'm not going to plug the one in December. But you can bet your ass that next year I plan to go to PAX East and PAX West if I can. So keep your eyes out for more of that. Jeff and I also, for Fun and Games, have some plans to be at some smaller cons in the nearest future, but none of that has been set in stone yet. So I don't want to plug it, but keep an eye on my Twitter while it's still around. That's where you'll get most of that information.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kanan Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirts that you can find over at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring.
Thank you to David Boyle for redesigning our logo like a champ. And finally, thank you to JT Music and Andrea Storm Caden for our new theme music. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Good luck, Pathfinders.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home. Feels like home.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CertainPOV.com.